It all started when I was living in South Korea and teaching English. That's where I met my wife, a Korean woman. And things started off well. We had our fights, but we loved each other, or at least I thought we did. After a few years of marriage, we decided to move to the U.S. I was tired of teaching English as a career, and she wanted to become a nurse in America. Back in Korea, she worked as an ER nurse. Her English was decent, but she wanted to become fluent. So before immigrating, she started attending a language academy, spending long hours studying there. Over time, before we moved back to the U.S., I began to notice changes in her. First, in Korea, there's a messaging app called KakaoTalk, basically like Facebook Messenger, but for Korea. She always used to have our photo as her profile picture. She even made sure I had the same one. But then, one day, I noticed she removed all our photos from the app. When I asked her about it, she gave me some excuse I don't even remember. But when I asked her to put our photo back, she flat out refused. She brushed it off like it was no big deal, making me feel like I was overreacting. I knew something had changed. Her behavior toward me became more confrontational and disrespectful. Still, I didn't suspect cheating. I should have. But she always said she loved me deeply and would never betray me. I guess I believed her. There were nights she didn't come home. Every time, she had some reasonable excuse. The night I finally found out, she told me she was staying over at her sister's place because she had to drive her sister and brother-in-law to the airport early the next morning. That was probably the third or fourth time I was left alone in our apartment. That night, I felt lonely, so I messaged her on KakaoTalk. Not only did she not reply, but I realized she didn't even read my messages. The app shows whether messages are seen. Later, I found out she had blocked me, so she never even received them. I tried calling her, but she didn't answer. I waited a bit and called again. Still no answer. On KakaoTalk, you can also see who is online. I noticed her sister was active on the app, so I called her to ask if my wife was there. I explained that my wife had told me she was staying with her. Her sister sounded shocked. From her tone and reaction, it was clear she had no idea what I was talking about. She hadn't seen my wife and didn't know where she was. What I didn't know at the time was that, after my call, her sister phoned my wife to ask what was going on. My wife probably lied to her too, but her sister convinced her to call me. So my wife finally called me. I was furious. I knew she had lied. I told her to come home right now, or our marriage was over. When she arrived, she asked me to sit in her car and began spinning a story, probably the same one she told her sister, about how she hadn't wanted to tell me, but she had gone clubbing with some single girlfriends. She claimed she was just helping to meet guys and wasn't interested in anyone herself. I demanded, "Give me your phone." I basically snatched it out of her hands. I opened KakaoTalk, clicked on the first chat, and started scrolling, taking screenshots as I went. And that's when the truth came out. The messages I captured were from her language academy instructor. I only managed to grab a few screenshots before she snatched the phone back, crying and begging me to stop because she didn't want to hurt me anymore. But those few screenshots told me everything. They were having a sexual relationship. She had been with him that night. She admitted she liked him and had been sleeping with him. I was completely crushed. We were supposed to move to the U.S. together in just a month. Her green card was already approved, and I had no real support system there. In Korea, teaching English is usually temporary, 1-year contracts. Then people leave. By then, I had been married for 3 years and didn't go out much. Most of my friends had long since gone back home. She begged me to forgive her, saying she was sorry and it would never happen again. At first, I said, "No way, I'll leave without you." But my world had collapsed. I couldn't even imagine taking that 18-hour flight alone. I was a mess. In the end, I gave her a second chance. We stayed together and moved to the U.S. Part 2. The first year back was rough. Finding work outside teaching, with only my career experience on my resume, wasn't easy. I survived doing deliveries and side jobs. Eventually, we had to move in with my parents due to financial struggles. I got a job at a great company where I had worked before Korea. If I had been smarter, we would have just stayed with my parents from the start. After a year, my wife got a job at the same company. With 2 good incomes, we moved into our own place. It seemed things were okay. But we still fought sometimes, and it often felt like she deliberately pushed me away. She would blow up over trivial things. Once, I always left half-finished Monster Energy cans by the sink to pour out later. She had never complained before. Then, out of nowhere, she exploded, "Why do you leave these here? I told you not to. Pour them out right now, or next time I'll dump them all on your pillow." When she got angry, she was cruel and insulting. She would apologize afterward, but the constant fighting and emotional distance wore us down. By fall 2024, we decided to divorce. She still visited Korea almost every year to see family and friends. In winter 2024, she went again. At that time, the divorce process was still ongoing. We were still living together because neither of us could afford to break the lease. We were basically friends, even friends with benefits. I still loved her. After all, while she was in Korea, one day she called me crying. She said she had gotten an angry KakaoTalk message from the wife of the man she cheated on me with 4 years earlier. My wife claimed she had confessed everything to the woman. Later, she said the woman even sent her a legal notice threatening to sue her. In South Korea, adultery isn't a criminal offense anymore, but it's still a civil one. You can actually sue your spouse as a fair partner for damages. As an American, this blew my mind. She told me because she was scared of legal consequences and needed money for a lawyer. She asked me to help her take out a 401k loan. I asked how the wife could possibly find out about something that had happened years ago. She explained they had communicated about their affair through essays she wrote for the academy, and the wife must have discovered them. She claimed maybe he cheated again with another student, and that's how she found out. But the timing was suspicious. What were the chances the wife discovered this right when my wife happened to be back in Korea? It felt more likely that something happened between them again, and the wife found out. My wife swore she hadn't seen or spoken to him since 2020. Foolishly, I believed her. She hired a lawyer in Korea and had me sign paperwork so she could sue the guy on my behalf, since we were still legally married there. I didn't want to be involved, but all I had to do was sign, and she handled it. A couple months later, the guy found out about the lawsuit. Somehow, he got my email and reached out to me. What he told me left me in shock. He sincerely apologized. He explained that when she went back to Korea in late 2024, she contacted him the very next day, wanting to meet. At the time, he and his wife were trying for their second child, and he didn't want to see her, but he worried that ignoring her might cause more drama. So he agreed to lunch. She tried to sleep with him, but he refused and dropped her at a subway station. Days later, she messaged him again, saying she still had deep feelings, and asked if he felt the same. She wanted to meet and have sex. He told her clearly that he didn't love her and wanted nothing more to do with her. That's when she apparently lost it. She must have taken his wife's number from his car, or found her on Kakao and contacted her directly. She confessed everything. I know this because I asked him for proof. He sent me screenshots of the messages my wife had sent his wife. So it turned out the other man's wife never would have known if my wife herself hadn't told her. His version made way more sense than hers. And then came the real bombshell. He showed me evidence that they had stayed in touch for years, through Instagram, Snapchat, Google Docs, and more. They even met again in 2023 when she visited Korea and booked a hotel. She was in love with him the entire time. She even had online lessons with him that were basically sexual conversations, up until summer 2024. All this time, she swore there had been no contact since 2020. Armed with proof, I confronted her. At first, she stuck to her story. But once I showed her the evidence, she finally confessed. I know people are always curious how someone finds out their spouse is cheating. But the way this came out still amazes me. If my wife hadn't, in a rage, confessed directly to his wife, and if Korea didn't allow lawsuits against affair partners, I never would have found out. It was only because of that lawsuit that he reached out and told me the truth. I admit I wasn't the perfect husband. Communication was always an issue, especially with the language barrier. I think when she was at the language academy, she bonded with him in ways I couldn't. He spoke her language, listened, comforted her. That's probably why she developed such deep feelings for him. And that's why she was devastated when he finally pushed her away.